there's one thing that I've noticed about living here on the West Coast, it's that they definitely live up to the stereotype of being environmentally conscious, but yet completely unaware of either A, the destructive results of government-imposed environmental regulations, and B, what is actually causing the climate to change. Now, while I'm sure we can all agree that fresh water, clean air, and environmental sustainability are all worthy goals to strive for, the question is how. And if you're unaware of the drivers behind the changing climate, then your means have the possibility of running counter to your intended goals. The biggest example of this is the role that the sun plays in the Earth's climate. In fact, compared to that giant circle of fire in the sky, the level of CO2 we're producing really has a nominal effect on the Earth's climate. And since the sun is going through what's called a weak sunspot cycle, then we can really expect colder temperatures. And indeed, that is exactly what has happened. I don't think I need to remind Canadians that the past couple of winters have been some of the harshest since before I was born, really. And not since February of 1906 has there been a solar cycle with so few sunspots. Fewer sunspots means less incoming solar radiation, which has a cooling effect. Low solar activity is correlated with the Maunder minimum, which lasted from 1645 to 1715, which was 70 years of cooling, as well as the Dalton minimum, that stretched from 1790 to 1830, which is about 40 years, and it was nicknamed the Little Ice Age. Now, 1816 was known as the year without a summer. However, in fairness, Mount Tambora in Indonesia did erupt in 1816, and this was thought to contribute to the year without a summer. However, by 1816, the Earth had already been in a centuries-long cooling period. Now, the rate which solar activity is dropping is, according to Reading University space physicist Mike Lockwood, is happening faster than at any time in the last 9,300 years. Lockwood is a proponent of human-induced global warming, so he doesn't see another ice age coming ahead. I guess he just thinks that the two forces are in a balancing act, and now if the sun were ever to get active again, the Earth would just heat up and we'd all just fry to death. And of course, humans have an effect on the environment. I mean, we are the environment, essentially. But it's been the campaign cry of the eugenics-loving environmentalists to deride the human race as some kind of foreign species. I mean, we've got guys like David Suzuki here comparing the human race to a bunch of maggots. Nevertheless, our effect on climate has been completely overblown by scientists with government research grants and politicians and bankers who are looking to increase their own power, influence, and wealth. And I'm sure I don't have to beat a dead horse here with you guys regarding the larger plan that the elites have for us. We've covered Agenda 21 many times here before at Press for Truth. Now, what's worthy of noting here is this, where it says a couple degrees warmer with more carbon dioxide in the air would be good for humanity and the planet. Crops, forests, and grasslands would grow faster and better. Longer growing seasons over larger areas of land would support more habitats, wildlife, agriculture, and people. Well, it's actually the opposite that we should fear. A couple degrees colder would have adverse effects on all of those things. Growing seasons would be shorter, and sure enough, during the 1816 year without a summer, there were food shortages and there were famines, even in Canada and the US. And it's not like we're advanced enough now to counteract this. Even though the year without a summer was 200 years ago, in 2011, 24,000 pensioners in the UK died from cold weather. And that was down from 2010, where 26,800 pensioners died because they couldn't afford to keep the heat on. And with the central banks printing money to oblivion and governments imposing destructive and actually quite dangerous policies limiting our energy use and consumption, well, all I can say is you can prepare for things to get even colder. Antarctic sea ice just set new records this April. And like I was saying, winters have gotten a lot worse in the last few decades. And if global temperatures dropped just 2 degrees, most agriculture in Canada and Russia would just be impossible. The growing season would just be too short. And considering that Canada is one of the largest agricultural producers and exporters in the world, the impossibility of growing food here would have huge detrimental effects on the world's food supply, not just Canada's. And this gets us back to the problem with these environmentalists. These are the people who want a clean planet, fresh water, and organic foods, all worthy goals to strive for. But how do they want to get it done? They want to give governments more power. The very same governments that force farmers to grow corn for ethanol instead of vegetables for food. These same environmentalists tend to oppose all uses of fossil fuels, fracking, chemical fertilizers, insecticides, and any kind of biotechnology. But if the planet's climate were to drop, the very inventions and innovations that could potentially sustain the planet's population and get us through a mini ice age would become illegal under the communist regime of environmentalists. Now, I'm not advocating for these things. I'm just saying I don't want to try to force the government to tell someone that they can't operate. The fact is, winter sucks. I mean, we're the only species on the planet that has adapted to winters the way that we do. You know, while every other animal struggles or just goes into hibernation, human beings have invented indoor heating. If someone just decides to never leave their house all winter, well, that person can literally never have to ever experience winter. Now, that's a feat of civilization and free markets, not government policy. In fact, with government policies kowtowing to these left-wing initiatives, rising energy costs are the result. You add in carbon taxes, some restrictions on coal and natural gas, and the funneling of productive wealth into non-productive uses, like wind turbines, and you've got the perfect recipe for disaster. And far from being environmentally sound, government policies are actually causing more harm. Rising energy costs in Germany, Greece, and a few other European countries have caused a huge surge in illegal tree cutting. Hungry families are poaching wildlife. Wind turbines are killing millions and millions of birds and bats every year, and this actually results in larger insect populations that end up eating more crops. The fact is, only 0.04% of the Earth's atmosphere is carbon dioxide. The sun, the cosmic rays, volcanoes, all other natural forces play a very large role in determining the Earth's climate. And far from advocating policies that will actually help the environment, the environmentalists of the left are just sowing the seeds of economic destruction, and with it, environmental destruction. So that's all for today, folks. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Be sure to subscribe to the channel today if you haven't already, and check the links in the description for all the sources to this video. And stay tuned, guys. We got a lot more coming very soon right here at pressfortruth.ca.